Hi, everyone. My name is Ritu Gupta. I am the CEO of Cirkled In. Cirkled In is like LinkedIn for students and colleges, making the best fit match between the two. As part of our COVID management or working with colleges and universities, we have started a video series where we bring in experts from all over the country, from different universities and colleges, and we share their findings with the broader community. Hopefully these insights are useful to you, and you can see how they can help you shape your strategy when it comes to enrollments and admissions. So today we have Patricia Lemon from St. Martin University in Washington State, which is our home state. Patricia, thank you for giving your time for this conversation. And Patricia is Director of Admissions for undergrad at St. Martin University. I personally have visited that campus, and I can say it's one of the most beautiful campuses I have been on. It's very green and very calm. So I can only imagine how does it look when it's empty. You know, it loses its life, every campus. So Patricia, what we are going to talk today is the impact of coronavirus pandemic on college recruitment. What you see as an industry managing this, and specifically for St. Martin, what exactly are you guys thinking going forward? Would love to have your opinions and your insights and your ideas and thoughts.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much. And this is always a topic of everybody's mind in higher ed, but also high school counselors and families as well. So this is really important. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So let's just dive right into it. As we all know, COVID has totally upended our education system. There are definitely some silver linings in this black cloud, but some of the really strong pain points that will be coming out of it will be the enrollment and admissions and what the numbers will look like. A lot of students are reconsidering their college plans. We did a survey of about 1,100 high school students, and almost 25% said they are rethinking their college plans. So that's just a fact. We don't know which way wind will blow when fall 2020 comes, and fall 2021 as well. So it's not just this year, it's year after that, considering all the standardized tests are getting canceled and stuff like that. So with that context, we would love to have your insights into this very important aspect of higher education. So let me just start directly with that. When COVID hit, what did you think, or what specific area where colleges and universities were least prepared to deal with that? And it came as totally shock and unpreparedness that you felt.
Just in general, because we do a lot of in-person, we're a teaching institution, and those in-personal contacts that we have with just even prospective students or even our current students that work in our office and stuff, just the community that we have, all of a sudden we had to disperse. It happened very quickly, obviously. We were kind of taken aback that it was going to hit campuses in general, but we did what we needed to do, and it worked very effectively as far as with our smaller campus. We were able to kind of like mobilize very quickly with our students. We did a poll very quickly with students who couldn't travel, because there are areas of our students that they come from, they can't go home. And so what were we going to do with those students that couldn't come home? All of that stuff, just navigating in real time was probably a challenge, because things would change, stuff would happen in the state, then we would have to make changes, and then that would change, so then we were trying to constantly communicate. But as far as like what the silver lining is, that we noticed that with our smaller community and how tight knit our community already was, it was really easy for us to implement, because we weren't moving 50,000 students. Right. We had about 1,400 undergrad students, and some of them still needed to be on campus. We were able to help students who couldn't come back to campus. We helped them move their stuff out. We actually worked together as a community to get the students that had to live on campus get them moved into spaces where they could social distance, all of those things in mind. With our current students, that was the main thing. And then as far as prospective students, I think it's just like they were kind of disappointed to not be able to come to visits and stuff. And then those overnights that we had planned and all of that stuff needed to kind of shift a little bit and kind of go into an online platform. And, you know, kind of we had several events. One of our largest scholarship events, which we have about 200 interviewers that come on campus, we had to put online in 2 weeks. So it was definitely, it was definitely one of those things where we kind of was like, okay, well, let's do this and we can handle this. I was, you know, you get thrown all sorts of stuff, but you just have to roll with it, you know, and we were very fortunate that we were able to do that. But as far as like, you know, those are definitely challenges that we've kind of been able to kind of push through and be able to do, partly because of our small community, you know, beforehand. So yeah, before everything hit.
Yes, yes. And actually, that is one thing I say, that even though there's social distance in because of COVID, but definitely it has brought communities together, stronger and together. So that's actually a good segue into my next question, going online. Everything is digital. Most colleges, universities, they had to literally in a matter of days and weeks go online. Classes and all the recruitment events and all the events had to go virtual. So a couple of parts to this question. One is, how do you see the long-term effect of this flight to digital? Is it going to be temporary? Is it going to be permanent? So that's one thing. And then how do you think it will impact, help or hinder your specific recruitment and admissions efforts in terms of using tools, different strategies, processes, and anything related to that? So digital changing how we do things on campuses now.
You know, it's been really interesting. We've our whole admissions office, we meet every day for a morning huddle. We talk about how are we feeling about, you know, our students. What are our students saying? We're meeting them where they are, and that has been really, really great. That has been a bonus for us as far as going online. Obviously, there's always like every once in a while you have a Zoom visit and you're like, okay, I need to show this map, and then it doesn't really click, you know, effectively. It's not as smooth as doing a presentation, but those are things that people have patience with because they know that we are having to use online platforms, whether it's the sound, sometimes not hearing a student's question, we're using the chat. I mean, we're just trying to do the best that we can as far as going digital platforms. But I would say that we've seen more good with our institution, partly because we're able to reach a lot of students that we hadn't been able to in the past. Some of our events that were only on-campus events, you know, my recruiting area was in Guam, America Samoa, and some of these students we were able to intentionally plan them in the time zone that would be for both all of my students and some of the students on the East Coast and stuff. So we kind of did a really nice overlap where everybody could participate at the same time, and we were able to get quite a few more people joining us for events like that were oftentimes missed because they were on-campus events. So that has been probably the silver lining that you talk about, because for us, that's, you know, we have the one-on-one intentionality, but for them to be involved in bigger events like that has been really kind of a nice plus. It kind of shows our community in a different way, which has been great. We are doing daily visits every day, and I think that's going to be the future. I think those are not going to go away because we're seeing the opportunity of reaching students at, you know, like across the nation and doing those virtual visits, because not everybody can afford to fly to campus, come to Washington and see the beauty. And so I think the virtual visits and stuff aren't going to go away. I think that institutions are going to be like, hey, this actually worked out great, so we're going to provide those opportunities and continue that on. We certainly are going to be doing that more often for sure.
Yeah, and that is exactly what our experience have been when we talk to different universities. Because if you think about it, this generation, Gen Z, who you are trying to recruit, they are online. So now what we have done, what COVID has done, it has brought the colleges and universities to their area, to the platform where they are, where they live, where they spend 3.5 hours every single day. And this is without homework or without schoolwork, all of that. So definitely it has opened the doors. Other thing that I think it has done is it has brought the equity a little bit to the at least exposure to the information. Like you said, not everybody can travel to all the campuses all over the country. So geographical boundaries have sort of faded because of COVID. So that's really cool. Yeah. In terms of tools or processes, like events are definitely a big shift from in-person to online. But other than that, how do you think, when you think about your strategies and the tools that you have been using, do you see that this shift has not only changed your thinking and your mindset about some of the digital and online tools that may have been available, or it's by need, hey, we have to go do that? What changes are you seeing in that?
As far as admissions processes, yes. I mean, we definitely have, we've always, in our admissions office, we were not a test optional school. We didn't have faculty support necessarily about that, partly because, you know, it's kind of one of those things where you have to have everybody on board to be a test optional school. And this was actually a beautiful moment where we saw our faculty members say, actually, you know, test optional wasn't that, you know, we didn't feel like it was, we thought it was more admissions, and we had those conversations and it was like, oh, so immediately we were able to implement and make some changes as far as the admissions process and be test optional with the parameters. You know, obviously, we still require a letter of recommendation. We always have, because I think that outside people have a good way of looking at a student too, getting outside perspective. But as far as like using those that opportunity to make some process changes, definitely it allowed us to be a test optional school moving forward. You know, I think it's one of those things that yes, this definitely kind of preempted some things that we wanted change to happen, and now we've been able to implement that moving forward. So 2021, the students that are applying, you know, they'll be able to see us as a test optional school, which is kind of nice, because I've always felt that testing sometimes had cultural bias and all sorts of stuff. And, you know, our institution serves a lot of first generation students. We have a very diverse population that we work with. And so this is one of those things we're able to actually have our admissions meet with our mission, basically. So
nice. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And test optional is one of the biggest change that COVID has brought into it. I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but there's an organization called fairtest.org. They have been after this, like, one number does not tell you anything about students' potential. So it has to be holistic review. Pre-COVID, 1,100 colleges had made SAT, ACT optional, and post-COVID, of course, it's almost 80-90%. I think what COVID has also done, like with this, you get a flavor and a taste for different strategy, like test optional, and see how it goes. And most colleges will see that how it improves the outcome of their teaching and their all their efforts with the students, because hopefully it's going to be much better fit.
Yes, and I think for us, it wasn't that it hindered a student into admissions at St. Martin's. What it allowed us to do, the testing, was basically give us a merit award. Basically, 100% of our students get a merit scholarship. Well, we used the GPA and the SAT as a parameter. We did a holistic review of all of the applicants, but the test score was one of those components that had us place them with a merit scholarship. And so that's where it became like, okay, so what are we going to do now with our merit scholarships if they were a component of our awarding, basically? So, you know, we've always been holistic, but it was just like, okay, now we're going to take that and we're going to kind of reshape our merit award, basically. So that's where it was kind of one of those things where it kind of impacted the, you know, I think for a betterment of the merit scholarships, actually, because I felt that there were students that were high achieving GPAs that were getting, you know, lower merit scholarships only because of the SAT scores that they got sometimes. So that was always kind of one of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. And I should add, because St. Martin is a smaller community, or smaller class size and enrollment figure every year. So you have that opportunity to do the holistic review, but a lot of big public universities did not. They just looked at one number, yay or nay, in or out. So I think it's going to give them a pause and step back and say, okay, how am I going to evaluate these candidates and make decision based on a holistic review. So moving into that same direction, everybody is saying, welcome to the new normal. And we don't know what new normal will look like, at least at this point. How do you see the new normal in fall 2020 and 2021 when it comes to your goals, like specific numbers, your enrollment numbers, your performance of your marketing efforts and stuff like that? Are you expecting a huge drop? Are you expecting a minimum drop, or you're not expecting any change at all?
I mean, if we look at the numbers, I mean, obviously, we extended our deadline to June 1st. I know quite a few institutions did that just to provide families time to think about their college decisions for fall 2020. I think a lot of students and parents, because parents are very much a part of this. I think that is the thing I think higher ed has missed, is that parents have very much an influence and a say in the college decision. And so getting to know the parents, getting to know the students really has made a difference in our enrollment numbers. That said, a lot of students have already made their decision, even though we've noticed that as far as May 1 deadline comes, that has been probably ingrained in a cultural thing, I think. It's kind of interesting. We do have students, because we do serve a first-gen population, and FAFSA numbers are down this year too, and so those compounding effects are really going to impact enrollment for fall 2020. I do see a lot of families deferring, possibly to spring, because students are concerned, parents are concerned about whether or not are we going to start in the fall, those decisions. As far as 2021, we might see an uptick because maybe some people took a gap year. Maybe they decided to, taking that gap year, they're going to go the following year, and this time period they're going to do something else. So, it's hard to predict, I think, with our smaller institution, because I feel like, we are holistic in so many ways. We're always meeting the students where they are, that it's not like this number. We always have goals, but they're just a number. And I always say that it really comes down to the relationship and knowing the students, knowing the families, where their thought processes are. To really gauge, our enrollment numbers are, it's a moving target, to be honest. And if we stay flat, I think that would be a success, I'm honest. But I do think that there's a lot of concern, and we need to acknowledge that and be transparent about our plans for the fall. Be transparent as much as possible. Communicate is what we need to do. And that's what we've been doing with our families, and they really appreciate it. The parents really appreciate that. So even the students, it's kind of one of those things. Because they're talking about it all the time at the dinner table, or
It's one of the biggest topic. Even pre-COVID it was. Now even more. And I can share from a student perspective and a parent, because I do have an 11th grader in high school right now. So she's a junior. And the other day, just recently, she came to me and she said, it's going to be very difficult for me to get into college of my dream. And I was like, why? She said exactly the same thing what you said, that 2020 class is going to push out, defer their acceptance, and they are going to go into 2021. So she said, we'll have much bigger pool of applicants and students, because if they are taking certain number of seats, of course, your spots reduce. So I did not even think of that before, but when she pointed out, I was like, wow, that is a good point. And these kids talk with each other all the time. So I'm guessing that's a sentiment that's probably very common in class of 2021.
I think that it depends on the schools that they're looking at, and it comes down to the college searches and, what's important to them. Having a good relationship with their college admissions counselor is going to help them navigate some of that college search stuff. But I do think that really understanding the student population of that school that you're thinking about is probably a little bit more important with COVID and stuff, because then you really know what's happening versus what the college admissions office is doing. Often students are like, they feel like they're the gatekeepers, when yet admission counselors really are authentic people. And at least in our office, we want our students to reach out to us and let us know what's on their minds, what's important to them. Because quite frankly, for St. Martin's, if they are looking forward to that football team, game and stuff, we don't have football at St. Martin's. So that's not a right fit. So finding that right fit is always going to be something that you're going to have to navigate no matter what year, but it will be critical, I think, for students to kind of think about their college search. I mean, very much so, getting an authentic feel through student ambassadors or talking and following students that are already currently on campuses. What are those experiences like, so that they can see themselves on campuses to really figure out what is the right fit for them. So meeting where they're at, I think, is going to be more important for higher ed than any other time. Yes,
totally, 100% right on spot. So that leads to the next question. Fall of 2020, class is going to be lower size. Most likely it will be lower size. Financial impacts. There's definitely going to be financial fallout from that. Each college will be at various places in this spectrum, from very little impact to very big impact. How do you see the higher ed industry as an industry responding to these? Not only that they will have less money, but there will also be increased financial aid requirements, because even the survey that we conducted, almost 70% students said that their financial situation has changed pre-COVID and post-COVID. Look at unemployment. We hit 15% unemployment last week. So it's probably double whammy for colleges and universities. It's not only they have less money for their operations, they will probably have to support their students even more. So how do you think colleges and universities are going to tackle that problem?
Well, at St. Martin's, I love our strong leadership, to be honest. And our Dean of Enrollment with our advancement team actually thought about families, the current families. So, and our Abby was generous. They were proactive, and they actually implemented basically a grant, emergency grant for all enrolling students at St. Martin's. They awarded $1,500 because of the impact of COVID on families. It was a very generous thing, but we wanted to be proactive rather than reactive. And having these families reach out to us, we wanted to let them know that we understand that these are hard times and things have changed, and we understand that you're evaluating things, and college might look a little bit different financially, and we wanted to be proactive about that. So that's what our institution has done with the help of our Abby of doing this grant for students enrolling. And then there's funds that are being separated actually planning wise to help students with technology if they have to continue on with for travel bans. For example, some of our Islander students can't travel, so it's like, well, they're going to need all the support they need. So and our current students, so we definitely have thought about that and tried to take a proactive stance rather than reactive, knowing that the financial implications are going to be not just short term, but definitely the next year after. We understand that, and we as a community want to let students and families know that we are here for you to support you, and we understand that. Many of our students, like I said, are first gen, come from really diverse backgrounds, so it's having them to reach out when they were already suffering is just not the way we were going to handle things. So that's what we decided to do, and so that's kind of what we did. I know every institution is doing something different. But we've always been an institution with students with high needs. So that's it's never going to, be different for us. It's part of our mission, our Benedictine values. And, so that's what we've done in the past, serving our students has always been number one for us. So.
Oh, nice, nice. And I have heard similar thoughts from smaller colleges. It has been easier for them to adapt because they were already smaller communities serving their students more on one-on-one level. It'll be more challenging, I think, for bigger public universities that have massive thousands of students. Okay, well, last question. What does future look like? If you had a crystal ball, colleges are now in the shutdown mode, so are the schools. And now looks like the conversation has shifted to what fall will look like. Will it be in person? Will it be online? Will it be hybrid? There are a lot of unknowns there. And I'm assuming that has created some extra workload for you guys, spending your energy and bandwidth on that one. What do you think will happen to the attention that class of 2021 needs? So your fall 2021 class, when are we shifting focus from 2020 to 2021?
Well, I can tell you for us, we actually already reached out, sent an email about, we know that your life has changed for sophomores and juniors, that you now have online classes, and it has not been easy on you. And we understand that, and we want you to know that we are here to support, and don't be discouraged and let this think that it's going to hinder you to get into any colleges or anything like that. And so we've just kind of done a really light touch, but just to say that, we know that you're having to do your classes online. We know this is hard. We know you might be worried about college admissions. Don't worry. We've got your back. We know that, this is a shifting climate landscape, and we understand that. And we will always look at your admissions file with compassion and understanding in this time and moment. And then we've asked them, like, so what are you binge watching on Netflix and this and that? Like, what is life like? Because honestly, we know that it's hard, but we also know that they're not seeing their friends anymore. They're not getting the contact. I'm missing my students. I'm missing my coworkers. We see each other every day, but it's not the same as I used to have students come and hug me, and now it's that's going to be a little bit different. So I think connecting with them early on just with something lighthearted is really a way of just saying that you're human and that that they're in a tough situation, and that's not going to impact the rest of their life. It's just a small moment in time, and I think that's what they need to have the takeaway. At least with us, that's what we're doing. So we think starting early is better because then they feel like colleges are more approachable. They can ask questions about things. They're always so scared to ask, should I get a letter of recommendation from a teacher, or can I get one from my coach? Sometimes they may not have the resources. Being at a big high school, maybe they, can't always get to talk to the college prep counselor. So it's nice to be able to know, oh, I remember Patty reached out to me and sent me something about COVID. Maybe they'll reach out and say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? So anyways, that's kind of what we've done. We decided that we were going to start early because it's important for them to know that we're not the gatekeepers. We're here for them to connect with, and we're human beings going through some really interesting times. So.
Yes, and that's actually you're very much beating to the same frequency that resonates with them. One thing I'll share with you is it was very interesting for us to see how students have visualized, or they have thought that the whole college admissions process is their headache. Onus is on them. So when COVID came, they were like, oh my God, I won't have SAT, ACT scores to submit. How will I get admission in my college, my dream college? They never thought that colleges can be flexible, and they are in this with them together. Students and families were mostly thinking it's my problem, not college's problem. So we had a lot of conversations with parents saying, no, that's not true. It's actually, you both will work it out together, and colleges are being very flexible. It was very interesting for me to see that how students and families were thinking, the whole burden is on them to compensate for what COVID has taken away from them. So it's good to hear that you are already reaching out to students and conveying that message that we are in it with you.
Absolutely. And, and parents too need to be a part of that communication loop. I think it's important to not ignore that the college process and decision-making process, parents are very much a part of that. Not, just to give them the options to have open communication. I'm always surprised that, parents do reach out to me and say, hey, I really appreciate you communicating with my child because I haven't heard anything from, somebody else. So I think that they need to be a part of the communication thread as much as possible, especially during this time where it's so much uncertainty. We just need to give them a moment where they can breathe a little bit and not worry about the future so much because they are worried about all sorts of stuff,
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So Patty, that was my last question. Is there anything else you would like to add? You would like to say to your peers or, your broader community of college admission officers?
I think that we're all doing the best that we possibly can in this moment. I think we need to give each other grace sometimes in a little space to kind of acknowledge that, we're all in it together and we support each other in everything we do. And I've noticed that with higher ed, we've kind of come together, all the institutions have come together in support of each other because even though we're all navigating and yes, recruiting and all of that stuff, ultimately, the students will find their own journey and we're here to support each other in the process. And so I just think, we're in it together is probably, one of those things, but to give each other grace when we need it and take a deep breath sometimes. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Patty. It was really wonderful talking to you. And I'm sure everybody will enjoy listening to this. And you have shared some really cool insights. I think big understand what I came out with is it's more of a community feeling. If you work as a human, if you behave and if you treat others as human, it's all good. And in the end, we will come out of this stronger together. That's what I see.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree with you on that for sure. Well, thank you so much for this time. I appreciate it. And for the opportunity to share, some insights. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.